Catch me if you can. Paul Carter is a railway journalist and photographer who lives on the border of Vickerstown and Barrow. He often comes to Sodor to take pictures of the engines. They enjoy his company as he is very cheery and kind, and they always look forward to seeing themselves in his photos. One day, Paul was visiting the China Clay Company to capture photos of the twins, Bill and Ben, in action. The twins loved being photographed. "Make sure to get my good side," said Ben. "What good side?" teased Bill, chuckling. Ben sneered at his twin, but quickly flashed a smile at the camera. Just then, Edward steamed in with some empty wagons. He was surprised to see Paul. "Haven't seen you in ages," puffed the old engine happily. Paul smiled. "You haven't aged a bit," he said. Edward was flattered. "Mr. Carter," Bill piped up, "have you forgotten about us?" The twins hated being ignored. "Bless you, no," laughed Paul. "Just catching up with an old friend." He turned to the blue engine. "My father used to talk about you all the time," Paul smiled. "Your father?" replied Ben, feeling very puzzled indeed. "Yes," said Edward cheerily. "It's actually quite a funny story. Shall I tell you?" "Yes, please," peeped Bill and Ben excitedly. So Edward began. Many years ago, in the early days of the Northwestern Railway, Paul Carter Sr. was a well-known photographer and journalist, just like his son, who took over his dad's job after he had retired. Anyway, Mr. Carter had come to photograph Gordon, who was fresh out of the works at the time, pulling the first wild nor'wester. Mr. Carter had a little car in which he travelled. Its primary function, however, was chasing the engines so he could take pictures of them on the move at particular locations down the line. Well, at the time, some engines were not too keen on this idea. "I'd just like to be able to pull my trains without being followed around and chased," Edward complained bitterly one night. "I think you're just jealous he doesn't photograph you as much as me," huffed Gordon. "After all, I'm the one he came to see." "He takes pictures of us too," Henry chimed in, "and he's always chasing after us. Anyone would think he's got nothing better to do." "I've heard he'll be staying here for a full week," Edward replied. "Just what we need." Day after day, wherever Edward and Henry went, there Mr. Carter was, squinting into his camera or driving alongside the railway. Soon, even the drivers and firemen were getting annoyed, as it was distracting to have Mr. Carter seemingly watching their every move. A few days later, Edward and Henry were heading home together. As they approached a signal box, they saw a car they recognized. The car was, as you may have guessed, Mr. Carter's. "Oh, botheration," chuffed Edward. "He's going to chase us again." "Right," said his driver. "If that joker wants a race, let him have one." He opened up the regulator and the two engines shot off like the wind. Mr. Carter knew what this meant. The race was on. He set off in his car, determined. Edward and Henry sped along the open countryside. Sheep darted from the side of the line as they passed. The engine side rods were merely blurs, but they were determined to beat Mr. Carter. The little car hurried along the road. The townsfolk were surprised and confused, but upon seeing the engines, they understood. "Go, Edward and Henry!" they cheered. The race lasted a long time, but eventually the two engines stopped at a station. Mr. Carter's car trailed shortly behind. Mr. Carter walked over to Edward's cab. "You lot are quite the fighters," he chortled. "I quite enjoyed that. But why did you want to race?" Edward and Henry explained everything. Mr. Carter smiled. "I didn't mean to disturb or upset you," he apologized. "I was just fascinated by you two. Your controllers told me all about you, how despite not being the youngest or strongest, you are determined and hard-working, and I think you are both truly enterprising engines." Edward blushed, and he and Henry peeped with joy. "I'm leaving tomorrow," continued Mr. Carter. "Could I trouble you for one final picture?" Edward and Henry agreed. "But," said Edward, "we want you to be in it." Mr. Carter was delighted. So he spoke to the station master, who agreed to take the photo. The engines and their crews and Mr. Carter smiled their biggest smiles. "We saw him from time to time after that," recalled Edward. "He always took pictures of us first each time. It made Gordon very jealous, but we didn't care." He laughed. "That always was my favourite of my father's stories," said Paul. "It was his favourite too. But I've got to get down to the Skarloey Railway in a few hours." "Wait," said Edward. "Before you go, let's have a group picture." The twins were pleased, and so was Paul. So the quarry manager agreed to take the photograph. Edward, Bill, Ben, their drivers, firemen and Paul all smiled their biggest smiles.